That open fires me up every time because as we count down to the drop date, the publishing date of this amazing book, Grinders, Baseball's Intrepid Infantry, by the guy on the bottom left, that being Mike Capps. Don't let the gray-haired beard fool you, but he is full of wisdom. He's pretty sharp, and we continue with some amazing guests. And we'll start with, we'll go around to the right, Jeff Frye. He was in Major League Baseball for quite some time, got to experience quite a few franchises. And John Allgood, a personal connection for me in my time in Oklahoma City. And he has the beautiful Bricktown Ballpark as his background. And he was involved in the front office, and he's a great storyteller. And Cappy, where do we start with this episode?
Let me tell you, you have to give John Allgood's title.
Oh,
so go the whole podcast if you do.
Well, see, let me show you what I made for him. And I would love Allgood to expand on this. This is only partial. We need about 4 lines. It's like a resume line for his entire title of his current position in Philadelphia at Temple University. Elaborate on that, Allgood.
Academic director of the executives in sports business, that's one title. And that is the executive masters in sports business. And that's people that are working the industry now. So usually top executives, ESPN. We've got actually the head amateur scout for the Milwaukee Brewers, the guys in charge of marketing for the Blue Jays. I'm staying on baseball, but we go NFL, college, we go all over the place. So I manage that program, but then I'm also an assistant professor. So I teach juniors, seniors, and master's level students in sports business. And Temple is one of the top programs in the country.
Molding the young minds.
Yes. And then before that, I was 15 years at the AAA team in Oklahoma City. And the last 5 was as the general manager of the Oklahoma City Redhawks.
Well, that's where the Redhawks is where I know John from, all the way back to when they were the 89ers over in that old ballpark before they came there. And I was in Nashville. But if you want to talk Grinders, you look in the right corner here. And one of my dearest friends in baseball is a fellow named Sandy Johnson, long-time assistant general manager of the Rangers, assistant GM at the Mets. And I called him to tell him, Jeff, and I may have shared this with you before, but he said, you got Jeff Frye. And I said, yes, sir. And I've already interviewed him and it's done. And he said, you got the grinder. Jeff, I just don't know if there's much better accolade than having Sandy Johnson say that about you.
No, I kind of got butterflies when you said that because Sandy is a real baseball man and he spent his whole life in the game, and for him to say something like that about me is just it's an honor.
Well, and the other side of this is it's not as if you didn't grind. I mean, and not to give your entire chapter of the book away, but when you were a JUCO player, you thought you didn't have enough juice to even get to the next level in college, let alone the big leagues, right?
No, I had never even dreamed. I mean, I was playing JUCO in Poto, Oklahoma, which is eastern Oklahoma. Yeah. And she went there to play basketball and baseball, but I didn't even know that there was a AA team in Tulsa or a AAA team in Oklahoma City. I mean, it was a town of 2,000 people, and I was kind of out of touch, and I really had no idea. And so my sophomore year, Coach Mark Pollard at Carl Albert called me in his office and said, "Hey, I think you're a year away." And I said, "From what, Coach?" And he goes, "From getting drafted." And I said, "By the Army?" And he goes, "No, you idiot, by professional baseball." And I was like, "Oh, come on, Coach. There's no chance. I'll never be that good."
Well, and to take the story down a couple of years away from that, you talk a teammate into giving you a tryout that he was supposed to have with the Rangers, and you make great work of the first part of it. Then you have your fingers torn up in a skiing accident and show up with a bloody hand.
Wow.
And take it from there, because I don't want to give away the whole story of the chapter, but it plays so well into what we're talking about Grinders. doing what you got to do to get the job done.
Yeah, well, I had a great senior year at Southeastern, Oklahoma State University in Durant, playing for Coach Mike Matheny. I was first team All-American, set the school record in hitting, and thought my career was over. And my teammate Benny Culver was invited to a Rangers tryout camp, and he was pretty sure he was going to be drafted by the Reds, so he didn't bother going. So I went in his place. Had the great first tryout at Midwest City High School. Invited to another tryout the week before. I went water skiing on Lake Texoma. The rope snapped out of my hand. My hand hit the ski, busted my fingers open, right to the emergency room. 5 stitches through my ring finger of my left hand, glove hand, and they glued the middle finger shut. And a week later, I showed up in Arlington, and with gauze pads wrapped around my fingers, a rubber glove, a batting glove over the rubber glove, and I never told anybody. And I went through the first part of the workout running and fielding, and it was killing me on every ground ball I caught, but I didn't want to say anything. And then when I tried to hit, the bat flew out of my hands, and they could tell something was wrong, and they called me out of the cage and said, what happened? I explained to them what happened, and they said, well, you obviously want to play pretty bad. Go home and get your hand ready. We're going to draft you.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And the other side of this is, and here I am giving away part of the story, but another one of my dear late sainted friends was Doug Gassaway, the guy who was after you. And Gass thought, here's a guy bleeding from his left hand, and if he wants it that badly, we better give him a chance.
Yep. And that's all I wanted was a chance, and it was, Doug Gassaway, you talk about the Rangers back then, it was, Sandy Johnson, Tom Grieve, and Doug Gassaway were huge influences on that organization. Marty Scott, Monty Clegg,
yep.
And
Monty Clegg.
Just some great people that, I had the pleasure to work for. And Doug was actually the scout of record who drafted me. But the thing about Doug, and I love Doug, and I went to Doug's funeral in Cleburne, Texas a few years ago, and Doug didn't want to drive from Cleburne all the way to Durant to sign me. It's too far, 30th rounder. So he sent Jimmy Dreyer in his place.
The late
Jimmy Dreyer actually came to Southeastern and signed me in Coach Matheny's office.
Jimmy Dreyer's dad and I were dear friends. He was the coach at Blend when I was playing way back when, before they invented infield dirt. But John, you as the general manager of the Oklahoma City 89ers and then Red Hawks, you were bound to have seen so many guys come through that maybe didn't look like they had it, and then you got them out on the field, got them going, got the adrenaline flowing, and next thing you know, you got a pretty damn good baseball player going.
Yeah, we were talking about Lee Stevens earlier. Lee Stevens, I think, had toiled in the minor leagues for a while, and then something just clicked when he was in Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. And something clicked, and I think he was named MVP that year. And the team ended up going to the Rangers and staying in the big leagues for a while. We were talking about Rick Helling. He was a real grinder. We were talking about he threw a perfect game. I can't remember which Dakota he's from, either North Dakota or South Dakota, but that guy, he ended up, being in the big leagues. And sometimes you just don't know, right? You might have the first rounder that comes through AAA and he doesn't make it. He bounces back and forth, and then you have someone that comes up that does make it. And it's really about the work. I'm sure Frye could tell you this, but I would go down in the clubhouse. At the beginning of my career, I was a PR director, and then later on as general manager, I'd go down in the clubhouse all the time just to see what was going on in the afternoons. And you could see who was there early, getting early work in. A lot of times that equated to success on the field, and that's part of being a grinder. But, love it. And the best teams, there's a phrase, 25 players, 25 cabs, which means, the team's not really together, right? But when you have a bunch of grinders that are working towards the same goal, that's when you also have success as a team as opposed to just individually.
And I said this to Jeff when I interviewed him. I said, to me, I was told from the time I was a little kid, if your grinders can't beat their grinders, you're not going to win games at any level. And I think, Jeff, don't you think that's pretty much true?
Oh yeah, I do believe it, and it's. You're going to have 2 or 3 potential superstars on a team, maybe at the AAA level, and in the minor leagues, and the rest of the guys, a lot of them are journeymen or young kids trying to make their mark. And that team was very together. I was fortunate to get called up that season after 87 games. And the reason I know it was 87 games is because I played every single game. Tommy Thompson would not give me a day off. And I had the middle seat on the flights. And I wanted to kill the radio guy because he was the one who gave out the seats for the flights. I'm like, this dude hasn't pitched in 2 weeks, and he's got an aisle. I've played every game for 2 months, and I got to sit between Steve Balboni and Jim right? And then, get to the field, and then now Tommy wants – I'm the guy he picked to go sign autographs for 30 minutes for the game. I was like, what are you guys trying to kill me?
Well, what you should have done – see, I think maybe if there had been a murder committed, you probably could have walked and you told that story.
That was actually the 92 team. I said 96. That's actually the 92 team.
Yeah. 96, I remember playing with Lee Stevens. We called him Mr. Big Stuff.
Mr. Big Stuff, yeah.
We had I can't remember all the guys because I was there 3 different times.
Eric Pappas was a catcher.
Pappy, I remember Pappy.
Rickard Fanida was a center fielder.
Wow, that's a good memory.
Yeah. Who was center fielder?
Rickard Fanida. I think he's one of the first Danish players that made it to the big league.
I remember him.
Yeah.
Man, I'm getting old. I'm barely remembering some of these.
And then John Shave took over your spot after you got called up.
John Shave, love John Shave. Best golfer I ever played with in baseball.
Wow.
I shot a 66 yesterday. I was like, what? How many holes?
The 96 team was a heck of a team, too. It was a good team. But, again, I'm trying to remember how many of those guys ended up going to the big leagues for a while. There weren't many, I don't think, off that team.
No, probably more off 92 because we had a lot of guys who had already been in the big leagues like Balboni and Jim Presley and Bobby Brower. Mike Berger never got his shot, but that's a guy who was a grinder.
He was. Yeah, he ended up playing with us a little bit later. And then the 96 manager was Greg Biagini, and he was a grinder as a manager.
Yeah, he was. Well, John, you've been in the business world for 99% of your career, and this grinding idea is parallel to what you see a lot of people do in the business arena. If they're not the CEO, but they'll give up, 40 hours to do 60 because the company needs them.
Yeah.
And I make this point early in the book in the introduction. If you're a single parent with a couple of kids and you got 2 jobs or maybe 3 and you're trying to, that's a grind. The whole thing is a grind. And I think what Jeff Frye did is amazing. And I think that everyone we profile in this book has a certain difference to their story. But the bottom line to it is, end of the day, they had to grind to get there. And I think it's somehow, and talk about the business community in this relationship, I think it's somehow sweeter when you really have to get your nose bloodied and your knees all beaten up and your body beaten up and you come out smelling like a rose at the end. I think there's an extra victory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm gonna answer that in 2 different ways. So in working in the sports industry, I teach my classes this. If you want to have a 9-to-5 job and not work nights and not work weekends, this is not the job for you. Right? You're going to have to work weekends and you're going to have to work nights. That's just the way it's going to be. And it's going to be tough on your relationships. And it's going to be, you're not going to get paid a whole lot of money at the beginning. And in the end, you're responsible for a lot of people. And, if you keep becoming successful and when you become a leader like that, then the grind changes because now you're serving your employees and your fans as well, which is another grind. That's just in the sports world. But to me, it's the people in business. So what I call grinding is they do more than just what is required. So instead of coming in at 8:30 and leaving at 5:30, they're at 7 and they leave at 6. And grinding also in the business world is gathering intelligence. So we call it analytics now, is the phrase that we use. So how are we gaining intelligence on our own beyond just what is required on our own job? And that's what I really try to instill in my students if they want to be successful in their careers is you've got to do more than just what's required. And I'll give you an example of myself. Is I read, I don't know, probably 7 to 8 sports business websites every morning, every lunchtime, and in the evening, because business changes all day. But I'm doing that because I'm grinding to be as intelligent and about what's going on as possible. The same thing happens in the business world. The more you can, I use the term, the more you can consume sports business, the more you can see the trends coming down the road. Therefore, you can be ahead of the game and instill new things. And then hopefully you're a grinder and a leadership that rubs off on people that are working for you from an example standpoint.
No doubt. Listen,
that's a good insight to how things are. I don't think I'm not ripping on this generation here, but they all want the high grade of pay, and also just jump into an opportunity where it is straight up come in at 8:30 or 9, and I'm done by 4:30 attitude, and that is not reality. And that's a good point, John. I mean, that's amazing, because I think if anyone watching this, I think that is rather inspiring. It's not just the sports world; it's a life in general. That's, a true perspective to be successful.
Yeah, so, and I'll bring up relationships just real quick, Mike. So one of my philosophies too is I grind in my relationships, which means, Mike, that's why you're able to call me. When's the last time we talked? I mean, it was a while back, but because we used the word grind in a relationship, we made the effort to keep our relationship fresh. Same thing with you, Shawn, right?
Yeah.
I've known you a long time, but I see Shawn's name on an email, and I'm like, Shawn Clynch, I got to talk to that guy.
Look,
I am in my personal.
That's why I always when Jeff Frye emails me, and Jeff Frye doesn't even want to be asking him to do a book signing with us at some point. And the great thing about that is it's a free meal for you and your wife and your kids, and I'll even buy the beer.
Wow, yeah, I do it for
stepping up.
We'll do it, but I really appreciate you guys being on, and Jeff, we'll talk. I'm serious. When this thing comes out, it'll be mid-season, but by the time October rolls around, I want to be up there in Dallas-Fort Worth area signing some books at some Barnes and Nobles up there.
Yeah, you just let me know, buddy. We'll make it happen.
I really appreciate it. And John, you're the best, man.
Oh, appreciate it, Mike.
You bet.
Yeah,
John?
Jeff, good meeting you. We'll have to circle back. Of course, I have a podcast called Stories Inside the Man Cave, and John Allgood. We could tell some stories with our good friend Jason Black. Okay,
we just want to sell tickets. Sell tickets.
Hey, Cappy, can I tell this quick story?
Quick, and then we got to pimp for Jeff Frye's business.
Yeah, both. We got to do both. So Jason Black and John Allgood worked obviously together in the front office. They come up. Minor league is beautiful at promotions. Beautiful minor league baseball. Yeah. Trying to bring LeBron James was going to be a free agent after that NBA season. The Thunder were peaking at that time in OKC, and they had a LeBron James to OKC. And John, explain to the good, fine podcast watching people what you were offering LeBron James to become an Oklahoma City Redhawk.
Well, so it was actually Jason Black's idea. And he was ingenious on this, but he listed and we did it in a press release. We sent it actually to the media in a press release. And we said that he could throw out the first pitch every night. We'd raise the shower heads in the shower so he didn't have to bend down. We would get him a trailer house in Godibo that his live in.
Yes.
And then we gave him a suite every night. So we went through all that stuff. And so we sent it out. And then Shawn got it, and I'll let you take it from there.
I took that. I wish I had it so I could share the file. But, of course, I was at the Fox affiliate in Oklahoma City, and I was always looking for those non-conventional stories, that people would interest everybody, not just this, hey, we got city growth. Hey, the Sooners are on a 3-game win streak. I wasn't all about that. This was John and Jason. We all thought alike. And it turned into a really amusing piece, and Allgood his saying was, I just want to sell tickets.
That's all I said the whole time. They would look at Jason, and Jason would go, we'll raise the shower heads. And then Shawn would pan back to me, and I go, I just want to sell tickets.
And I just want to sell Jeff Frye because he's got
100%
great YouTube stuff. He can teach you how to hit like nobody's business. Talk to us about that real quick.
Yeah, well, you can go check out my website, shegonehitting.com. I sell T-shirts. About to have a new T-shirt out, and that's all by accident that this even started. Really, my main platform is Twitter. I'm at O3 J Frye. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, the Certified Hitting Guru, and I also am a keynote speaker. And all this started from me making a funny video in my backyard, and at the end of the video, I yelled out "She gone," and one of my buddies goes, "You should hashtag that she gone."
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, I will," but what does that mean? I had no idea.
That's
Yeah,
a great
it's been
story.
fun. It's been fun.
That's a really good story, man. Jeff, Cappy, John Allgood, we'll have to do this again on another platform or circle back and do this in person. You guys are great storytellers. This is always fun.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
Yes.
Good to see you guys.
We'll see you, fellas. Let me know,
And we'll
Mike.
see you. And be sure, you watching this episode, be sure to share it on your social media until the launch date of this book, publishing date, targeting the All-Star break. For these esteemed gentlemen, I'm Shawn Clynch. We are out.
Awesome.